Before we kick off with the main speeches, I just wanted to say a few words, but I'll keep it short, like my family. I'd just like to say I'm so honoured to be here today to witness Charlie and Meg make the best decision of their lives so far, making me their MC. No, but seriously guys, on the height thing, let's try to keep this to a minimum, because Charlie does get a little bit sensitive. And we don't want anyone getting punched in the knee. I'd just like to say how proud I am of my little brother, and would like to welcome his beautiful wife, Meg, to the family. Meggie, I have two very important words for you tonight. Good luck. We're completely crackers. So Meggie, you also have a new surname now. For a one-syllable word, Bird is surprisingly difficult for a customer services representative. Hello, is that Mrs. Brid? No. Is that Mrs. Byard? No, it's Bird. B-Y-R-D, with a Y, like a flying bird. Very challenging. So believe it or not, Charlie was actually a very good little boy. He was. He was. It used to really piss me off. The naughtier I was, the better he got. So I used to like to get my own back on him, and I basically used him as my personal little doll. So I'd dress him up as a girl, paint his nails. This one time he even let me wax his legs because I said he'd go faster on his BMX. So Charlie, I did touch on this, you did touch on this at our wedding, but there was one time of day in the Bird household which, to be honest, was pretty traumatic. It was breakfast time. So Angel Boy, over here, would be eagerly up and dressed downstairs, ready to take on his A for effort day at school. But there was a bizarre motivation behind this eagerness. There was this spoon. I know it's a bit weird, but it wasn't just any spoon. It was this metal spoon with flowers on it that had somehow snuck its way through the 70s into our cutlery drawer, and it was known as the flower spoon. So while Charlie was sitting all smug at the table, a different scene was unfolding upstairs. My father is weeping in the corner because the awkward child won't get out of bed. But my mum knew the one thing that would get me up, and she'd peek around the door and she'd go, "Darling, Charlie's got the flower spoon." So I'd bolt out of bed, charge down the stairs to reclaim my spoon. But I'd be faced with a barrier at the table. It was a huge construction as high as the eyes could see, and it was the cereal box wall. So I thought, let's bring this childhood hack back to life. In the words of Donald Trump, I thought, we'll build the wall. And you can pay for it because it cost me €50. So Charlie and Meg, if at breakfast time you just can't bear the sight of each other and you need a little something to create that barrier, I have a gift for you. So Eddie, can you please bring this over? So it's time to kick off with the main speeches. So let's welcome our first speaker to the stage. He's been breaking hearts since 1959. He's got the finest chin in Warwickshire. It's the one and only Mike Jordan.
I knew the bloke with the smallest willy would come out of that.
Oh, we are going there. We're going there.
For those of you who don't know, I am in fact father of the bride. We're a bit late on the bus, I'm afraid, because our bus driver decided he needed a poo and took 20 minutes over. But actually, nothing prepares you for this. Those that have daughters and have had them married know what I'm talking about. Nothing prepares you for this. So, Harry, you blew everybody away this afternoon. How are you? Harry, here's my speech. Fucking get on with it. So, how do I cram 31 years into an hour and a half? I must say there's a lot of love in the room. A lot of love in the room. And everybody's made a huge effort to get here. It's fantastic to see my niece over there, Alex, bringing her family over from Australia. Then there's Mars, come over the second time, stag do, then this one coming from Australia. Then there's Lexi, the DJ, and then obviously Jess coming from Dubai. And let's face it, we're not in Warwickshire, are we? So everybody else has had to come on a plane to get here. And what a fantastic effort. Even thwarted by Thomas Cook, it's probably cost a shitload more money than you expected. But thank you so much for making the effort. It's absolutely amazing. Thank you. So I'm not sure who decided to have a wedding abroad, but I have to say it was a great idea with this backdrop. And it's just been an absolutely fantastic day. And the people that organised this thing, they have made it very easy. And oh my God, why do we need any more food? They're just amazing. I'd like to raise a small glass, not just yet, and in fact I don't really need you to stand for this, but we did mention earlier Megs' grandmother and mothers, Jeannie, who can't be here, which is my mum, and Heather, who can't be here either. And I just think that they would be blown away if they saw you, and I just wish they had. Obviously Charlie, Tony. And Charlie's grandfather, Tony, couldn't make it either, but Charlie, he'll be rooting for you, that's for sure. And then we've got a few cousins that aren't here, Jack, etc. And so I'd just like to raise a glass just to say to absent friends and family, we're thinking about you. But guess who did make it? The old bugger standing up there at 91. Amazing.
Well done.
Ian, Chris left the poor bugger to come on his own. And turns up at the airport, and the guy says, "Do you want some help, chap?" And he goes, "Well, not really. I think I'll manage, you know." But then he didn't realise when he got to Palma what a huge walk it is with all your luggage. Fair play at 91, fantastic, Ian.
Brilliant.
You absolutely surpassed it getting here. It's fantastic.
Well done.
One thing I'm going to try not to do is do what my dad did. Well, a couple of things he did wrong, but one was he toasted the wrong couple at my sister's wedding years ago. And he was always a bit nervous about speaking, but he always did a great job. But he stood up there and he was looking out in front, and he goes, "Right, I'm going to make a toast to Kim and Mark." And he looks down and he sees Neil. Well, Neil was still heartbroken from Kim. Still loved her. He looks down and he's taking the photos because Kim's such a wonderful person, you'd never fall out with her. And so he was actually at the wedding. And my dad stands up, "Raise your glasses to Kim and Neil." Oh my God. The whole place went quiet. And then luckily I've got an uncle who just burst out laughing, deliberately of course, and saved the day. But my poor old daddy went outside and threw up.
Oh.
That wasn't the only faux pas he did. It was actually at my brother's wedding. I don't really remember, in the old days we used to have little matches that were the giveaways that you had at weddings, you know, and you had your name on it. And he put Stephen and Susan. We didn't even know who Susan was. We ended up with 3,000 boxes of matches that were actually useless. So there's been a lot of history between the Birds and the Jordans, and who would have thought 50 years ago we'd be at a Jordan Bird wedding? So our parents, well, actually no, it's Jackie's parents and my parents lived on the same road in Four Oaks, and I think these reprobates used to get together on a regular basis. But I've basically known Jackie all my life.
Oh, that's and, older.
Yeah. And Nick's obviously been a friend of the family for years, and we've been on plenty of ski trips and all sorts of trips and holidays together, going down to Twickenham. So the fact that our kids are married is absolutely brilliant. I think my brother Bill started all this nepotism, or whatever you might want to call it. Back in the old day, they used to go up into the loft and play spin the bottle. Now, obviously, some of us younger people don't understand what that is, but you basically spin a bottle. Whoever spins the bottle, where it points, you have to snog the other person. Guess who Bill got? Jackie! Yeah, Jackie tells me that was her first ever snog at 14. Really?
I didn't say where.
But the thing is, I think this has been passed down the generations. Because I think there's been a bit of spin the bottle flying around the siblings. You know, Dan, Steffi, Duncan, Megs, Charlie. I think it was poor old Harry that missed out on that one. Night, John boy. Night, Mary Lynn. Yeah. Anyway, I think we are so lucky that our families get on very, very well together. And on behalf of Bev and I, we would like to thank both Nick and Jackie for welcoming Megs so warm-heartedly into the family. She absolutely loves you guys and Steph and Dunks, and I'm sure there's going to be some great, plenty of family celebrations to look forward to. And Megs did ask me to thank you personally herself, on behalf of me to thank you on behalf of her, but she did also like to point out that she's been fighting alcoholism ever since.
I get it.
So, Moo, she finally found her true love. Yeah. Charlie had to do a lot of spade work, because a lot of Megs' previous dickhead relationships. And the fact is, we like this dickhead. All you want as a parent is happiness for your kids. And thanks to Charlie, I honestly believe he adores her, and he will look after her, and he'll protect her. And there may be a few drunken faux pas to come, but
That's my department.
but I know that his heart is sold. It was lovely when they stayed the other night, actually. They stayed at our house, and they got in later, and I heard them clanging around in the bedroom next door, clanging around. I should have rehearsed that bit, shouldn't I? Ad-libbing, it's not good. So, yeah, I heard a clanging and they fell between the bed and the wall. And the giggling that went on. And it must have been 20 minutes before they could actually get out from the side.
Hang on.
25 minutes.
Well, that's what you told me.
Time check.
Anyway, When Megs was born, Dan was devastated. No longer the only child. And the poor girl suffered. Oh my God. It was a bit like the Harry and Lulu sketch. Everything that went wrong in the house was Megs' fault. Anyway, he fed her mouldy bread that was supposed to be for the ducks. He tried a double bouncer off the trampoline. And one night, I think we found him rubbing deep heat into her nappy. Megs was an easy child and a happy child. I mean, women, they all get in a strop every now and then. I can imagine. Oh, it's some of them. Mine doesn't, but everybody else does. She very occasionally got a face on her. But I tell you what, she was the easiest person to placate of anyone. I used to just say, look at me, and don't smile. 2 seconds, done. And I tell you what, it never failed, and it still doesn't. But actually, Harry loved... Harry. Favourite child again. That was just for you. She was lacking attention. No, Megs loved her story time, but she didn't really like the book so much. She liked the made-up stories. And I'm sure my neck surgery has got a lot to do with me smashing my head down on her stomach and listening to the cup of tea she'd had before she went to bed, making all sorts of noises that we translated into animal noises. And the animals, the giraffes, the elephants that were charging around in her tummy. And I'd look up and go, she'd go, what? And I said, bang! I said, oh my God! And I managed to make up these stories about what was going on in the jungle in her tummy. But she absolutely loved that for hours on end. And it did. I'm sure that's caused my neck problems. But as a 2-year-old, Megs loved her swimming. We turned our back once, and then we couldn't see her because she was at the bottom of the pool. But then we did wonder whether that was Dan. So with that and falling down a crevasse skiing, we're very lucky to have her here. She went on to be quite a good swimmer, Megs. And I remember going to watch her swim at Bromsgrove School. I think it was Bromsgrove, when you were about 14 or something. And she was in the near side lane, doing the crawl, going at it, hell for leather. And I thought, oh, she's going to win this. And just like the crazed father you would be, screaming at the top of my voice. And I'll never forget looking down at her coming across. And she looked up, and she saw me there, because she could hear me screaming, a big grin, and was going... Yeah, she lost that one. And Megs, she did cruise through school, and not surprisingly with a mum like Bev, who beat her to death during her homework. Maths lessons with Mum were a terrifying ordeal.
Talk about it, please.
Bev could never quite understand why all 3 of her children couldn't grasp the simple premise of quadratic equations. And without fail, these sessions always ended in tears. But Bev, however, has been one hell of a mother to Megs. And she is so well-rounded. And thanks to Mum, whose influence has given Meggie the principles and character that she has. So, Megs is fiercely competitive. Anybody who's played sport against Megs would know that. Even Charlie. And she could simply turn her hand to almost anything. She was skiing as a 3-year-old. She could wakeboard, snowboarding, you name it. Loved her tennis and jumping off cliffs, plenty of that. But one thing, I was very privileged to go windsurfing with her and Harry about 2 years ago to Brazil. And we had 2 weeks of serious waves, serious wind, 25 knots, scared the shit out of me, let alone her. And I have to say, Meggie was not probably at the level that she needed to be out in that sort of weather. But she is a determined bugger. And I'm not joking, through bruises and batterings, I've got photographs of her launching off waves 2 or 3 foot high and landing it. She did amazingly. What a character. But you're still not as good as Harry. Harry told me to say that. So, rugby. Oh my God, how lucky am I? She loves rugby. She used to come and watch me at Claverdon, which is a shit standard, to be honest. I was expecting worse.
I've just lost
She used to come and watch at Claverdon, and sometimes they had the 7-a-side tournaments, which would last all day. And I'll tell you what, she never got bored. She'd get hold of somebody and she'd be slinging a ball back and forth to this guy, and eventually go, Christ, and somebody else, she'd get another unsuspecting victim. But she would spend the whole day passing balls back and forth, back and forth, back and forth while we played our matches. And she, I think she, that doesn't sound right when I say she got through the whole team, but what I can say is she was a better passer than most of the club team at the time. And what was always fun is she always wanted to be going through the tunnel afterwards with the players and get clapped off the pitch. But netball was always Megs' game at school, and it's great to see her back in it with the Leamington netball team now. Countless man of the matches.
Yay.
And captain, and they won the league last year. But to be honest, we had 3 boys, because as beautiful as she looks tonight, she's a tomboy through and through. She's always demanded Twickenham tickets, and every year we have our ridiculous routine of getting our faces painted in England colours, which always attracts attention and poetic licence, because we always have our challenges while we're down there, and it's who can get photographed with the most ridiculous person, or the person with the biggest gap in their teeth, or the biggest beard, or the tallest person. And that last one was the tallest person. Megs came through with a guy who was 6'10", as proud of anything. She thought she'd won, and then Harry walks up with 2 twins, 6'11". But it's great. It's great that Megs has maintained her close friends from Bromsgrove, Southampton Uni, and London, and it's really great to see you all here, guys. We're very proud of Megs and Megs' work ethic. She went to London and she worked on the Olympics and then worked for Your Golf Travel. And I know that was a tough job. And I met her bosses, who were a pain in the arse, at a pub one night, and they just said amazing things about her. But I know that was a very, very, very tough job. And I can thank Charlie for my new marketing manager, because she decided she wanted to come back and make something with Charlie. And I gave her a temporary job while she went out and found one for an events job. But she's still there, and she's still doing it. And it's fantastic working with her. The guys at My Business Summit love her. She's gone into marketing, didn't even know how to do it, and she's absolutely smashing it. So, just before Charlie cracked on with Meggie, I went on tour to Claverdon. I went on tour to Greece with Claverdon. And it was mainly all the young bucks, but obviously there was a few of us older player coaches. And we had a night on the Lash, and the next day we had a game somewhere near Athens, and it was baking hot. But we'd had a couple of beers on the coach, and as we got to the venue, as a 50-ish year old, my bladder wasn't what it was, and I was gagging. So I was pushing my way out of the coach. As soon as I got out of the coach, there was the bush. Whipped it out. For a week. So as all the boys came filing out, passing by, it was respectful. There was no respectful comments, and everything was maintained, including my relief, until some twat shoved me into the bush. The thing is, it was a tropical porcupine bush. And in order to protect my appendage, I put my arms out and I ended up face first in this bush in shorts. It was the prickliest, evil thing. I couldn't even find a way of getting out of the bloody thing. So, having to try and maneuver my way out and feel the pain of all these incisions all over me and on my legs, I finally get almost another twat pushes me in again. So, eventually I did get out, and eventually I found out who it was. And all I can say is, I've got your travel diaries. So you want to sleep in one of my own?
I was expecting that one.
I'm biding my time, young man.
Where the fuck is this?
I did have a lot of ugly banter actually with Clavidon when it became obviously common knowledge that both Charlie and Megs had a bit of a thing going. You got Harvey, Ross, Jimbo particularly, bastards. There was me as the coach on the pitch getting some serious black from those guys, thrusting their hips and making out that Charlie had got a lot further than he had with my very innocent daughter. So, Charlie's stag do. Well, in Leeds, you have to say, well done, Ed and Muzz. Did a great job organising that. Did you do anything, Muzz? No. Okay, well done, Ed. Charlie had to busk for his first beer in his Y-fronts. It was hilarious. He was dancing like some sort of nutter in front of these people in his underpants. They all paid him to piss off. He did rather well out of it, didn't he?
Did he get some money?
He got loads.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah, did all right.
Why didn't you do that earlier?
But he ended up the focus of a Q&A. And myself and Nick were pulled up as the panel with Dave. And Charlie was then subjected to a number of questions. And the first question was, Charlie, what is Meg's favourite position? Well, I tell you what.
Stop there.
I felt
reserve
sick.
speech here, mate.
No, I felt sick. Honestly, I felt sick. And Charlie just went, no, I'm not answering that. Well, I can assure you, Ed was having none of it. No, just one answer. So, Charlie's going, I don't know, mission, no. Doctor, no, I don't know. Reverse cowgirl. No, the answer's centre forward. But I have to say
That's an old one.
the question that really cracked me up. The question that really cracked me up. You bastard. Is Charlie, who do you prefer? Mike or Dave? Brutal. Absolutely brutal. But of course he had to choose me. So it was customary, it is always customary for to ask the father to take his daughter's hand. So Charlie chose the perfect time at David and Bev's wedding. Well into the evening, Charlie strategically collared Debs to manoeuvre me into a place where we'd be quiet and alone sort of like in a field, but and he knew it was late in the evening and I was completely leathered. The poor bugger followed me around for an hour. But apparently, I gathered I was really excited and said yes. I don't remember any of it.
Oh no!
But
It's not actually what you said, is it?
But to be fair, I wouldn't change the result.
Oh. Collective art.
So, Megs has some wonderful qualities, and one of her greatest qualities is loyalty. And I don't say this lightly, but Megs knows what she knows. And having a friend like that is a privilege. A friend who knows and believes in you and will block out the drama is rare and priceless. The one person who comes to you in time of real need will be Megs. I know this firsthand, and I'll never forget it. Charlie, you have a person who won't suffer fools, but she will stand through you thick and thin, and you will make a great team. I am lucky enough to know you as my son-in-law, but before, and I have a warm comfort knowing that you will look after her and treasure her for who she is. I stand here as a very, very proud dad. Megs, you surpassed any anticipation of what I would feel at my daughter's wedding day. You are the light of mine and many people's lives. So I'd like to toast the bride and groom. Bride and groom!
Well done, mate.
Like your beef well done. Okay, it's time to get the tissues out and welcome your groom. I've been told he's a shower, not a grower, in more ways than one. He's my favourite brother. It's the groom Charlie.
Wow. Just wow. I genuinely don't know what's more overwhelming. The fact that I'm looking in front of 160 of my closest friends and family who have flown over from all over, or how beautiful my new wife looks. Seriously, on behalf of my wife, it genuinely is amazing how many of you have turned up here today. Mike, can I apologise, mate? Savage on the bank, mate. So, my speech as groom is easy. I just need to say all the thank yous. So first and foremost, I don't know if she's there. There she is, Ellie. Events manager here, the owner of the venue, absolutely spot on. I think it's fair to say this place is absolutely ridiculous, and you run a tight ship, and it's just, wow, just fair play, unbelievable. Thank you so much. Thank you to all of you in front of me here today. It really is overwhelming. 160 people have actually flown over from all over the world, really, and you know there are a few people in particular that need special mention. Murray, my best man. Alex and Gareth, Megs' cousin, and Lexi, DJ, have all come from Australia. My cousin India and her husband Guy from Singapore. Bridesmaid Jess. Her fella Tom from Dubai. Bully from Thailand. Grunts at 91 makes it on from all the way from Isle of Wight on his own. If they don't deserve a cheers, I don't know what does. So fair play, absolutely amazing. Here is another one, Megs' great uncle Mike and Tony, who I would have normally said, if they'd flown over from Sprague, thank you very much, but I think I've done you a favour, mate, so don't worry about it. My ushers and best men. Eddie Muzz, Dunk Warding, Dan. Thank you for the memories, boys. It has genuinely been amazing. Thank you for my stag do. It was genuinely the best weekend of my life. Until tonight, Mum. I was getting there. Calm it. I genuinely love you boys and thank you very much.
Just wait a minute.
The bridesmaids. Rose, Anna, Steph, Jess, Kavi, and Harry. Thank you for actually persuading Megs to go through with it. It's been a tough gig to find a girl to marry me as a midget. She absolutely loves her hen do, and I know she loves you guys so much. And I think it's fair to say you guys look absolutely amazing tonight. So without further ado, everyone raise a glass and show their appreciation to the bridesmaids. Harry, you know what? I'm actually gonna just throw that away. That in there has absolutely exceeded all expectations. I honestly was not expecting it. It absolutely blew me away. I managed to keep my tears in somehow. I actually don't know how. It's absolutely ridiculous, mate. That was absolutely ridiculous. Like, fair play. Like, we absolutely love you. Like, that is unbelievable. This was the hard one. Mum and Dad. Thank you for raising me to be an absolute legend. Seriously, where do I start? You are both absolutely bonkers. As bad as a box of frogs. But my God, do I love you. Thank you, not just for your contributions today, yesterday, and tomorrow, but for the support you've given me throughout my entire life. I was never the most academic of people at school. Cheers, man. And God knows what it would have been like if I didn't get sent to public school. And after spending hundreds of thousands of pounds on my education, I got a third from Nottingham Trent University. And decided to become a builder. Not playing bricks Must be so proud. As difficult as this must have been, as difficult as that must have been to take, you stuck by me throughout. You are, you are always there when I need you, and I love you both always. Steph, my little rat of a sister. You're an absolute legend, mate. Thank you for our childhood memories. There is a bit of an overlap here, by the way. Persuading me to wax my leg because it would make me ride faster on a BMX. Yes. My first ever memory of life, being pushed backwards down the stairs. Dressing me up in skirts, putting lipstick and makeup on, are all a few examples of what have been a catalyst to create an amazing brother and sister relationship. Thank you for everything you're doing today, even though I know you're not done. I know you'll smash it. I love you and thank you for everything. Beverly Rooney. Not only is your contribution today amazing, but you have done endless organising to help today seem so special. You and David look after Bruno the whole time. And you do endless things to help Megs and I on a daily basis, which we're so thankful for. You have welcomed me into your family with open arms and already turned up countless pairs of trousers. I genuinely can safely say you're the perfect mother-in-law. And may I say you look amazing tonight. Michael. We didn't get off to the best of starts, did we? As Mike has already mentioned a certain incident in Athens a few years ago, I actually would like to give my version of events. We were on tour with a well-known establishment called Claverdon Rugby Club. Don't know if many of you have noticed there are a few of them here today. I can only apologise. We were in Athens, we were getting off the coach, and Mike happened to be in front of me, and he was taking forever to get off. And you know, it is rugby tour. We're all there to have a laugh. I've had a beer. And I could see that Mike was actually merely struggling to get off the bus. So I thought I would merely help him get off the bus into what seemed to be a well-cushioned landing. The fact that it turned out to be a razor-sharp thorn bush is unfortunate. Yes, there actually leads. I remember it like yesterday, it's so good. 2 years later, Mike decided to become our rugby coach at Clav. I was actually still on crutches at the time, so I stood on the sidelines, and I suddenly was literally just standing there, and Mike comes up to me. Oh no, sorry, I didn't actually know he was coming up, but he came up from behind me. Suddenly I heard this whisper in my ear, and he goes, "Not only do you push me in a thorn bush," I was like, oh shit. He then says, "You then have the audacity to get with my daughter." To which I responded, "Yep." I can see how that looks. Doesn't look great, mate. That's what I was like on the inside. On the outside, sorry. On the inside, I was like, yeah! I am actually a legend! Cannot wait to tell the boys about this. Coach's daughter completed it, mate! But you know what, mate? I'm glad I was audacious, because look where it's got me. I'm stood here in front of 160 of my closest friends and family with a beautiful new wife. And a best friend forever, and I couldn't be happier. Mike, your generosity today is ridiculous, mate.
Yeah, I agree.
We could not have had a wedding of this stature without your input. And thank you so much for welcoming me into your family and for producing an amazing daughter. Thank you. A slightly strange thank you now. Thank you to the Bird and Jordan relationship of the past. Or should I say, relationships. Turns out Megs and I are not the first pair between the two families to get along. It all started in the 60s, apparently. 70s. Sorry. Shut up. Pigeon, mate.
I don't know, man. You told me.
Nick Baird, my mum's cousin, my godfather.
Oh, that might be
Lost
the
it. What? Used to date Megs' Auntie Jill.
Yeah.
That's where it all started. It's all right, though. Don't worry. Auntie Jill's husband Bill got his own back by snogging my mum when she was 14. Whoa. Move on 15, 20 years. Michael. My now father-in-law snogged my Auntie Rachel.
I think that's...
Dan, my now brother-in-law, has snogged my sister. And to top it off, my originally brother-in-law, Duncan, has snogged my wife. I'm putting an end to it! Birds and Jordans are off limits. My final thank you. My final thank you to my beautiful, funny, caring, hard-working, friendly, loving, perfect new wife. Words cannot express how I'm feeling. I'm the luckiest man on earth. Some would say I'm punching above my weight. Some would say I'm definitely punching above my height. And many have said, how have you managed that? Well, let me tell you. We've actually known each other for a long time, over 20 years to be precise. We went on family holidays when we were kids. Megs actually claims we snogged each other at the Holly Bull when I was 13. Much to my amazement, I actually don't remember remember that. I'd love to say it's because she was one of many that night, but the reality is I couldn't handle 2 beers. I was sick in the toilet. So the reason we started seeing each other was actually thanks to a few thank yous actually. Firstly, Cloverton Rugby Club. Thank you, boys. Mike had recently become our coach, and his first match in charge was against Atherstone, where actually Dan was, wherever Dan was living at the time. And he brought Megs, Harry and Dan with him, and it was at this point that she caught my attention. Coincidentally, but I hadn't seen Megs in a few years at that point, at least 6 or 7, but then coincidentally I actually saw her a week, might have been 2 weeks later, at Cousin Jack's leaving do. And this is actually where I thank Brother Dan as well for I suppose, orchestrating, as weird that is. Like, hey mate, you fancy a bit of my sister? I think you guys are really suited. Fucking weird, eh, mate? Worked out absolute dreams, so fair play. But anyway, I did actually think to myself, you know what, maybe I do fancy a bit of that, you know. So we started playing beer pong together, and she was actually driving at the time. So I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna drink all of her drinks like an absolute ledge. And and from that point on, I just knew that she was a bit of me. Like, you know, we just got on so well, like literally just having absolute banter left, right and centre, and it was just absolutely brilliant. So from that point onward, I pursued it profusely. It actually took a while for us to get onto our first date, but we did have a first date in London, and I mean, she'll say it wasn't a date.
It wasn't a date.
What was that?
It was not a date.
Definitely, it was a date. We had a few drinks, and I remember saying to her, and by the way, to all the single lads here, this is an epic tactic. I said, I'm just going to pop to the loo. When I come back, I'm going to kiss you. To be fair, she looked horrified. And I actually did at one point think she might not be there when I got back. But sure enough, she was there, and I followed through on it. We called it a night, and also another great tactic, single lads. I was like, oh, I'm a Warwickshire boy, stuck in the big bad city, I don't know where I am. She was like, come on then, come back to mine. I was like, sold? Far too easy, mate. No, hold on. She was an absolute lady about the situation. I tried, I don't get me wrong, I tried. No, she didn't go for it. She didn't go for it. But genuinely, after that night, I never looked back. And I mean, I think it's fair to say we both never looked back. And it was just absolutely amazing from that point onwards.
But it wasn't a date. But it wasn't a date.
It wasn't a date.
Megs, I love spending time with you. We've got the same interests, which is just so ridiculously similar. It's weird, isn't it? It's weird. But I wouldn't change it for the world. So you should all have a shot of limoncello in front of you. Which, may I also just quickly say thank you to Bev Larini and Dom Carlisle, wherever she is, there she is, who put a lot of effort into making this limoncello. So can we all just, I would love everyone to be upstanding to my beautiful new wife, Mrs. Bird.
Excuse me, just one more thing. One more thing. Thank you. I now pass you on to my best man. And you know what? I know I am going to get absolutely rinsed, so sod it. One of them plays with girls while they're sleeping. And the other tries it on with your sister. So we'll leave it there, Eddie and Luz.
Thank you very much. It's an absolute honour to see you all here today. I love everyone. Thank you so much. I'm out.
Okay, guys, the beef is fucked. Has anybody got the number for Spanish Domino's? Okay, last but not least, we have two of Nottingham Trent's finest alumni. They've got more material on Charlie than a curtain factory, so this should be good. Please welcome Eddie and Maz.
Wow, Charlie. I didn't know about your command of the English language there, Charlie. Right, ladies and gentlemen, what an honour it is to be part of this poison chalice of a speech today. A task that many think's an easy one, for the amount of bumps and scrapes Charlie's got himself into over the years. But for the last few months, all Muz and I seem to have done is exchange X-rated tales via FaceTime, knowing we can't tell them to the brand new Mrs. Birds today. Hello? Okay, so I'll start again.
Bit closer, that's it. No, that's fine.
Off to a flyer. Well, ladies and gentlemen, what an honour it is to be part of this poison chalice of a speech today. I wish that was deliberate. A task that many think was a straightforward one. Crikey, there are a lot in the toilets. With the amount of bumps and scrapes Charlie got himself into over the years. But after months of FaceTime calls to my esteemed colleague Murray, all we seemed to do was exchange X-rated tales about Charlie that we couldn't share in front of the brand new Mrs. Bird. Who I think, we all agree, looks absolutely fabulous. Bev and Mike, you must be absolutely brimming with pride.
Yeah.
Until you realise who sat next to her. Meg, you really do look absolutely great. And I think I speak for all the men in the room today when I say today is a sad day now that you're off the market. And Charlie, I know I speak for all the women in the room today when I say today is just another day. Now, we shouldn't press on any further without fulfilling what I thought was the official reason we stood up here today as best men, and that's raising a toast to the bridesmaids. Now, I don't know many of you that well, but I do know how much you mean to Meg. And Harry, how chuffed Meg has been with everything you've done today. It's been absolutely brilliant. And you definitely all show up the ushers and best men. So, we'll raise a toast to the bridesmaids. So, it was the 13th of June, 1987, when things changed forever. Charlie Bird came into this world, no doubt kicking and screaming. Time flew by then because I didn't meet until I was 18, so I've got a lot of material there. When he turned 18, Jackie packed his bags and sent him off to Nottingham Trent University for bigger and better things. Mainly bigger, as he proceeded to double his body weight in the first year and confirm his front row status at rugby trials. And in step, Phillips and Smith. A great choice of friends, I think we'll all agree.
Yay!
moving on slightly to when Charlie first started creeping around Meg, I could tell he was very fond of her. Not only because he declared her as the one after 2 or 3 dates, where she must have laughed at a couple of his jokes, but the rounded little hairy gremlin also started 6 a.m. fitness sessions with Mike. Needless to say, the little man and his little legs couldn't keep up, and it only lasted a matter of weeks before Mike was training solo again.
That's very true. That's very true.
Now, before I head into an endless abyss of stories about Charlie, we thought we'd best try and give this speech a bit of structure. So we've split it up into 4 main characteristics that we think shape Charlie's life. And I'll hand you over to Muzz now to get us going.
Thanks, Ed. That was lovely. So, we're going to start with Charlie Bird, the teammate. Well, I think you'll all agree Birdie's nature is very much to be a team player. While this sounds like a lovely sentiment, it often ends in dubious circumstances. Believe it or not, Birdie will go to extreme lengths to support his partner in crime. On one occasion, Birdie and his accomplice, Eddie, were in above their heads chatting to a couple of nurses on a night out.
Are you serious? Serious?
It didn't take long to realise they were also struggling in relation to stimulating conversation. Both being recipients of 3rd-class degrees from Nottingham Trent, not a massive surprise. Thinking on his feet, Birdie decided that the best way to entice these nurses back home for a nightcap would be to offer one of them the pleasure of checking his prostate. How that is an incentive, I really don't know. Now, whilst this may not come as a surprise to many of you, what will come as a surprise is the fact that the nurse that inspected his prostate was not only a male nurse, but had hands like shovels. Never one to shy away from a challenge, Birdie's put his hands up for many adventures where teamwork is paramount. More recently, on 2 occasions, Birdie's been invited to join friends in being butlers in the buff. Are you surprised Birdie put his hand up? Of course not. However, there are a couple of things I need to share with you. The first time Birdie Beardall, he was put in charge of the finger food, which incidentally isn't a euphemism. The night was going absolutely brilliantly until a number of the ladies started to complain that every time Birdie bent down to get food out of the oven, they witnessed what he'd eaten for breakfast. On the second occasion he Beardall, it was for none other than his mother-in-law. Now this was an incredibly brave decision. Not only would Bev witness exactly what Megs has signed up for, but he would run the risk of being compared to the myth, the legend, that is his father-in-law.
Elegant words, Murray, thank you. I'm sure many of us, if not all of us here today, are very aware of Charlie's competitive nature. Now, this hasn't always been a negative characteristic. It's led to the invention of some great games while at university and on holidays, to pass a lot of time in between our studies. And you even stole your mum and dad's crib board from home to keep score more accurately.
That's what it was.
You taught me the rules of croquet, which I have since found to be a little inaccurate and heavily in favour of you winning on a regular basis. Playing golf with you, mate, is an absolute joy, but a constant battle of counting each other's shots and who's in the lead. And in writing this speech, I've been able to find out why he has this edge to him, which can only be described as living in his father's sporting shadow.
That's brutal, mate.
While they have much in common, Their sporting ability doesn't seem to be quite aligned, and I'm overjoyed to go into more detail. Now, during Nick's illustrious time at Cheltenham College, he was awarded colours in First 15 Rugby in 1969 and 1970, First 11 Hockey 1970 and 71, Athletics in 71, Second 8 Rowing 1970, and Second 11 Cricket in 1971. All of which, no doubt, was alongside a glistening academic record.
Whoa!
Oh, we're not done. We're not done. As well as this, he's recorded a score of just 1 over par through 18 holes of golf and represented the Midlands at hockey. Quite the sportsman.
Whoa!
Now, Charlie's efforts of following in his father's footsteps are rather predictably just a little short. He was awarded colours in hockey, tennis, just hockey and tennis. While his best ever 18 holes of golf sees him some 6 or 7 shots behind Nick, showing why he savours and celebrates every little victory as if it's his last.
So, on to Charlie Bird, the traveller. Well, they say that travel broadens the mind, and given the reference to Birdie's education tonight, it's a good job he's done a fair bit of it. Having travelled with Birdie a fair bit myself, as well as hearing many other tales and adventures that he's been on, there are some valuable life lessons that we can take away with it. Life lesson number 1, fake it until you make it. Surprisingly, being 5'7" and looking like Rumpelstiltskin, the Australian ladies were not queuing to chat up to Charlie when travelling to Australia. As a result, he decided to take things into his own hands and create a persona that might be a more attractive proposition. After an afternoon of contemplation, Birdie decided that tonight he was going to be Ronan Trick, or Tricks to his mates. Son of an oil tycoon, Roy Trick from Texas and Ivana Trick from the USSR. Tricks is a drill engineer with a first-class degree from Manchester University in drill and engine mechanics. He was also the inventor of the Rich & BX 136 deep core power drill. Was on the run from the Russian mafia and had fled to Australia to seek untapped oil fields. I honestly do not know what I'm more astounded by, the sheer desperation to attempt to brag like this, the fact that he thought people would believe he had a first-class degree, or the fact that he struggles to use a screwdriver on a daily basis, let alone invent a drill.
Did it work, Captain? Do we want to go there?
It did, a little bit of success. Life lesson number 2, don't bite off more than you can chew. One summer, Birdie had been invited on a Jordan family holiday on a windsurfing trip. Now, normally Charlie spends his summers playing croquet and paddling in the shallow end of his parents' pool. So it's fair to say he was going to be outside of his comfort zone. As a result, Meg signed him up for some beginner's lessons. Not only would it help him improve, but it also gave her assurance that if he fell in the beginner's lagoon, he'd be able to stand up. Not one to accept being a beginner, Birdie on his first day decided to leave the comforts of the beginner's lagoon and head for the open water. What our boy genius hadn't taken into consideration, it was blowing a force 5 hauling, and he had no idea how to windsurf. Moments later, he would find himself far out at sea, thinking that he was a goner. Thankfully, just in the nick of time, the rescue team spotted what they thought was a lost child and came to his rescue. Life lesson number 3. You can't teach height. One of the most standard things about Birdie is you can guarantee at the end of a night out, he will be grazing within a kebab joint, a burger van, or a pizza shop. On a more recent excursion on a ski trip in France, true to form, Birdie would find himself in a pizza shop at the end of a night out. However, this time, things would go slightly differently. Out of nowhere, a minor skirmish broke out. As we know, not all heroes wear capes, but being the hero that he was, Birdie jumped straight up to break the fight up. Luck would have it, at the exact same time, the owner of the pizza shop jumped over the counter, armed with a can of pepper spray, and took aim towards the group of people, being sure to aim for their chests, not to make direct eye contact. What she hadn't taken into account was that Birdie was a foot shorter than everyone else, and as a result, he copped a facial of pepper spray. Incidentally, not his first facial. Add to that the fact that he received 5 punches, throwing 0, couldn't see for 2 weeks, and would sulk endlessly to Megs. Unfortunately, Megs, some things will never change.
Right, one area of Charlie's life, and in particular his university life, we felt couldn't slip through the net today, was his personal hygiene.
Oh
Or maybe lack of. Aside from his fungal feet, I know from talking to the new Mrs. Bird she's had a very positive effect. She runs quite regular inspections and a very strict bath time schedule.
I thought that was you.
But it became apparent this was necessary very early on, when Charlie broke wind in bed and held Meg's head under the duvet. Having survived this near-fatal chemical attack, which apparently is a sign of affection, she knew things had to change. But years earlier, things were not so well controlled. We knew the situation was critical during second year.
Oh, so did I.
Or more accurately, Charlie and Murray's first year. When he was refused entry to a nightclub because of his body odour. Appealing to the door staff's better nature, Birdie managed to negotiate that if he went home for a shower and changed his clothes, he'd be allowed to come back and enter the establishment. Unfortunately, the England rugby shirt he was wearing that day had fought its last battle and had to be thrown away, as after even being freshly laundered, the stench could be identified. Moving forward, Charlie found a foolproof method of testing for unwanted smells, known as a human scratch and sniff. Now, this is exactly as it sounds. While lying in his pit of a bedroom, he would scratch very specific areas of himself. Get the smell right into those cloven little hooves of his.
Earmuffs!
He'd bring the hooves up to his snout and go for a very powerful sniff. Obviously, he denied what he was doing, and the areas that he was sniffing in particular. So he modified the technique to try and throw us off the scent.
Very good.
And he introduced a little cock of the finger post-scratch, and then a little distraction method and 4 seconds away before the sniff. Now, Muzz and I aren't exactly Holmes and Watson, but we soon worked out what he was doing. So maybe, Meg, you can take over the scratching and sniffing until death do you part.
Megs, truth be told, the items that we referenced during the speech really do align with what makes Birdie the legend that he is. From a teamwork perspective, we know no man more reliable and more genuine, and we can guarantee that he will be there for you through the highs and lows that your marriage encounters. His athleticism will ensure that you have fun in whatever you do, whether it be windsurfing in the beginner's lagoon, or one day starting a family of your own. His travelling appetite will ensure you go on many adventures together, and as for his hygiene, look out for those wandering fingers. Birdie, you're one lucky man to be married to this gorgeous bride. And Megs, from the bottom of our hearts, we know no man more loyal, with more integrity, heart, generosity and love than Birdie. It really is a rarity to see two individuals who could achieve anything they desire. Imagine what you can as a couple.
Oh, well done, Bert.
Ladies and gentlemen, please join us both in raising a glass to the newlyweds, Mr. and Mrs. Bird.
Oh, wow.
Sorry you realise what a disaster it was at school.